We do a little checkout on the machine. Now obviously we have to use an iPad to do that.
That's from the
original manual. Mm-hmm. This is part of the original checkout. It's a small program that just literally counts up through the characters in the machine. Just a counter, and it just scrolls through them and prints them out. And now we're just going to execute, and that's just literally, it's a small counter. It's starting at the lowest character number, counts up to the highest, and just outputs the character. It's a very small program just to show that the system's powering up. Next thing we'll do is try and run a program with the cassette adapter. And I'll load that off of iPod. Okay, so this is the Apple-1 from the book. And let's reset it. And we are going to load BASIC now. We've already done a checkout. There was a previous video for that. I'm going to load it off a cassette. And there's no backspace, so I can't type. There we go. You have to tell it where to load BASIC. We're going to load it off of an old iPod. We could load it off of a cassette player. It's just a little easier this way. It's easier to restart. So we're going to tell it where. We'll start, and we'll press play. And about 40 seconds later, we should have BASIC loaded. The cassette wasn't very reliable back then. Sometimes it takes once or twice. With an iPod, it takes about once less than it would be with a cassette. About halfway there. And this is an original Apple-1. Okay, so we're going to start BASIC. We'll write a little program. ETS, right?
Oh, 2 T's.
Oh, 2 T's.
Backspace.
There is no backspace. That's why we have to do this. So we're having a little fun here. So as you can tell, I cannot spell, but TTS?
Yes.
Like that, right?
Yeah.
We want to do that. We want to have a little fun with this anyway. Just to prove we are working on the Apple-1. Whoops. See? Go to. Wish my kids would listen as well as this thing. So, and this is a fully functional Apple-1. Now let's go load another program. And I guess what we'll load is let's load 8K Apple Star Trek just to load something. As long as I didn't typo anything, I think we're good. Just telling you where to load the pieces of Star Trek. And another 30 seconds. It's irony, BASIC is faster than the program. But this is what you went through back then. You had to load BASIC, then you loaded your program. So it was a multi-step process that failed half the time. And here we go. We have Star Trek. So this is the traditional Star Trek game that most people had. Most people would remember this little screen here. and we have a fully functioning
You know what
Apple-1.
my camera does? Come on over here and look at the screen. See how it does the...
Yeah, that's the rasterizing. So that's your camera actually. When you have a professional videographer come, they actually have to screw with the cameras a bit to keep them from getting the refresh. LCD screens don't do this. LCD screens actually don't refresh.
So this is because we're using an old TV.
This is because we're actually using a real TV.
Right.
This is a real 1970s TV that actually was factory modified for a Sony tape recorder, which is very rare to be able to find one of these. This would be what you'd either have made as a hacker, opening up your TV with a soldering iron to make a direct plug for the Apple, as Steve Jobs has said in different articles, or you went out and you got one that was made for a VTR.
So you and I are seeing a black and white screen without that.
We're seeing without a line. That's actually, now these dots are indicative of a real Apple-1. You won't see this on, for example, the replica one or any of those kind, because it's a artifact of the actual signals on the board. 30 years later, 35 years later, we've kind of figured out if we wanted to eliminate them, what would have to be done, but people had tried eliminating them with no success. It took a long time for it to be figured out, but we leave them in. It's one of the kind of cool indicative signs. Some are worse than others. But yeah, so we're running basic on an Apple-1, an original one, and this is the one that, that the book was written about. Kind of neat story, so.